guessing. Oh, there's someone behind you. Priority.
afternoon. It is a bright and sunny Okanagan day outside. The snow has abated. A few weeks back it was a couple of feet around of snow. But yeah, if we want to sort of come in and take our seats or go to our seats, that would be great. My name's Charlie Whitley. I have the privilege of being the pastor here at Vernon Christian Fellowship. And just as folk are coming in, I want to extend a welcome on behalf of the Kift family for this sad occasion, but also it's just so clear how many conversations have been struck up of people who haven't seen one another for a while, and it's such a great time to get together, to remember Vanessa, but to meet and enjoy one another as well. So just clearly, on behalf of the Kift family, welcome. And I'm sure there'll be a few more coming in as we go on. This was Vanessa's home church growing up, and that goes back a little while. And as with most things, as we look at each other, we kind of recognize one another, but we also think, this is very different. Who are you? You've got a voice I recognize, but your shape has changed. And the color of your hair has changed.
And it's a little bit like that with this fellowship. In some ways, we're exactly the same as we were as Vanessa was growing up. But in other ways, we are very, very different. And we'd like to think we are slowly and steadily growing in the love of Jesus Christ. And we do pray that everyone here experiences that welcome that Jesus will give you. You are welcome here. I'm going to hand over to Art. He's going to be leading us. Art was the original pastor here in the fellowship, and it just seems very fitting that he would be leading these proceedings. Bless you.
And I would like to ask Paul to make your way up here for the opening prayer. We're here today to honor the life of Vanessa Kift, to stand with Vanessa's family and friends as they're mourning, as we are mourning her passing, and to remember that Vanessa, like every one of us, represents more than what can be seen or heard, because we're all created as eternal beings. So what we're about to hear this afternoon will include stories about Vanessa's childhood, her creativity, her relationships, and her struggles. But it will also touch on her faith and the eternal part of her nature. So I'd like to ask Paul now, a longtime family friend and an elder, a longtime elder in this fellowship, to pray for God's blessing on this memorial service, and particularly on the family.
Jesus said, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." He also said, "The words that I have spoken to you, they are spirit, and they are life." Lord Jesus, the hearing ear and the seeing eye, you have made them both. So, Father, for all the things that are coming to our eyes, our ears, and our hearts today, in your great mercy and your loving kindness, Lord, I pray that you speak your life, your light, your comfort, and your truth to each and every one of us, all by your amazing grace. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Thanks, Paul.
The song that the Kift family chose for us to sing together was written almost 150 years ago by a Chicago lawyer and businessman with an unusual name, Horatio Spafford. I won't go into the details of the story except to say that he and his wife suffered the loss of their 4 daughters when an ocean liner sank in the Atlantic Ocean. Just a few days after this tragedy, Spafford wrote the words of the song we're about to sing. Since that time, it's inspired faith in millions of people around the world. So let's stand now to sing together, It Is Well with My Soul. Let's take our seats. Sylvia, will come. Share with us the reading.
Everyone. Vanessa would have been singing like mad with that song. She loved to sing. How to describe my daughter is more than words could say. She was tender, humorous, creative, musical, artistic, passionate, intense, loving. She was also insecure, overwhelmed, often suffered a lot of torment and a lot of stuff. She felt she was misunderstood and often felt misfit, though her picture does not show it. And she tried to fit in various ways, which led her astray and down the wrong paths at times. And also looking for ways to ease her pain. But there's a song, I think it's 103, that says, God knows how we are made, and remembers that we are dust. And so, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a red Bible back there. And we didn't even know to what extent she read the scripture. But she read it intensely. And she has so many underlining where she read it and it meant so much to her. And I'll just read you one example of that here. She had this one underlined. Oh Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger or discipline me with your wrath. Be merciful to me, Lord, for I am faint. O Lord, heal me, for my bones are in agony. My soul is in anguish. How long, O Lord, how long? Turn, O Lord, and deliver me. Save me because of your unfailing love. I am worn out from groaning. All night long I've left my bed with weeping and drenched my cup with tears. My eyes grow weak with sorrow. They fail because of all my foes. Away from me, all you who do evil, for the Lord sent me. Away from me, for the Lord has heard my weeping. The Lord has heard my cry for mercy. The Lord accepts my prayer. May all my enemies be ashamed at this day. May they turn back in sudden disgrace. And I'd like to say that I have like a whole binder almost full of prayers that I prayed for Vanessa. And, often we don't think of how God's going to save us. But God has mercy on his people. And I believe that God said that it's enough. And I'm looking after you. And I'm going to take you all now. So, those of you who struggle, just give yourself to Jesus and heal. Come and take you. But may it not be in this way, of course. But God knows where your pain and your struggle. So thank you for hearing my heart.
Thanks. We're going to call now on Jonathan and Sarah to the liturgy. In Sarah's remarks, she will include some references to mental health, which we've encouraged her to do. This may surprise you, but the statistics show that in Canada and the U.S., roughly 50% of the population will at some point in their lives deal with mental illness of some type. And something that people often don't talk about, and because we don't talk about it, it makes it worse for people going through it. And it's a good thing to be able to acknowledge this is also what we struggle with from time to time, and to learn to be more open about it and support one another. But I know you'll say it much better than I could, so Jonathan and Sarah, would you come down? This microphone is working.
Thank goodness for Paw Patrol.
Vanessa. Nobody in this room knew my dear sister. That didn't include myself. That doesn't mean we didn't see glimpses of who she was. But the whole room was always true. Many of you in this room knew her as a young person growing up here. You saw only part of it. Others of you, like my dear wife here, only knew her recently. And those of you, like her, also only knew her in part. And even my mom, my dad, and I, we tried hard to stay close to her through her whole life. And we didn't get to know the intricate, beautiful person that she was in her time. But here are a handful of things I do know. She had a profound sense of justice. When I see that same thing in my own little girl, there's a deep and gentle softness in her heart. And she was just a little girl. She loved every creature under God's grace. She would pick up a little earthworm on the ground, bring it up to her lips, she would kiss it. She would pet it gently and say, woof, woof. Every animal, woof, woof. She had more ideas in a year than I would have in my whole life. She was incredibly talented and creative, especially when it came to fashion and art. You can see just a small sample of this in the back there of the display of my wonderful handwriting together. She loved to sit and color fantastic detailed pictures with our daughter Callie. She taught Callie how to draw dresses and instilled in her a love of detail, color, and style. There will be a few more friends that will be sharing their stories about her in a little bit. But I've invited Sarah to talk a bit about her perspective on many things here at the reflection. One for them to play.
When I first met Vanessa, she wasn't the person that Jonathan worked with. And I missed out on that huge beautiful part of the story. But I did get to see fragments of that part of it. And I think it took a while for her to make space for me to keep found this, sharing Jonathan and all his deep care, presence, and compassion was difficult for her, as she relied on her big brother to help her make sense of things and everything. Over the last 12 years, I got to know Vanessa well, and I saw her in different states. Somebody who's struggling to spend the magical afternoons with the kids, as well as sharing her sharp wit, fierce intelligence, and humor with me, and her deep thoughts and feelings about relationships, people, and friendship.
I'm going to speak very plainly now. Because of her mental health problems, including substance use, borderline personality disorder, anxiety, and the kind of trauma that she suffered throughout her life, from abusive partners to debilitating head injuries, to the places that she lived and wasn't safe or always surrounded by friends. It was difficult for her and us to always connect. But this wasn't her fault. The greatest tragedy of mental health challenges is that the very thing we as human beings need to heal and thrive, meaningful friendships and connection, solid and consistent community, family, and a safe and stable place to live, are often completely inaccessible to these intensified families. Vanessa's illness and trauma often meant that she was misunderstood, and that she found it hard to trust and understand those who wanted to help. As her immediate family, there were times that we burned out. We were frustrated with each other, she was frustrated with us, and yet she found it challenging to trust us and help and connection, although it was a deep desire, wasn't always available. And this is just a hard thing to reality, and one that really left me in our group, especially this day. So what I want to say is that we need each other. You're not problems to be solved or issues to fix. And the more we can make space where you're comfortable and support one another so that you're not carrying alone. And recognize the symptoms of mental challenges without shame or fear. The more we can help each other to the form of heart and spirit. Get I be more straightforward here. Tragically, Vanessa was alone when she died. The risk of using drugs today, and this includes painkillers that are addictive, cannabis and opioids, where everything is painted by fentanyl, and there is no way to tell whether the dose was true or not, is much, much higher for those who use alone or in hiding or in shame. And the Naloxone kit is free, and it saves the lives of people who have overdosed on fentanyl and opioids. And the more people that have one, and know how to use it, the more people that you can see. You don't know whose sister, brother, friend, or best friend might be treated. Everyone belongs to someone. So that's what it never happens in each other. You need to talk to one another about what you're really struggling with, whether it's addiction, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, depression, mental illness, or whatever else you're ashamed of saying out loud and asking for help with. You need to be okay with making space for the hard, uncomfortable, difficult conversations where the ones who love reach out or signal for help. And you don't push them away because you are afraid or you sit in judgment around their behavior because you don't understand. We can give our presence instead of our judgment. And that was one of my favorite things about Vanessa. She said a lot of things out loud. She named things, and she didn't care what people thought. She was a truth teller, a keen observer of the human condition, with a huge heart for the suffering of others. Although her life was often fragmented and complicated, she wasn't afraid to speak about the hard stuff. So let this be part of her memory and legacy, that we have the courage to speak and to support one another in all the messy, painful, and uncomfortable parts of life. We need each other, and we need Vanessa's voice as a vital part of the conversation about what it's like to live with mental illness, as well as a life of authenticity, creativity, imagination, and heart, all those things considered.
On my 30th birthday, Vanessa sang A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall by Bob Dylan. Some of you in this room were actually there for that. Some others of you are probably at the age that you know the lyrics by heart. Looking back at that moment, it feels like she sang with me those words that she knew I would need them for just this moment. So, bear with me as I try to read to you the final verse. Oh, what'll you do now, my blue-eyed son? What do you do now, my darling young one? I'm going back out before the rain starts falling. I'll walk to the depths of the deepest black forest, where the people are many and their hands are all empty, where the pellets of poison are flooding their waters, where the home in the valley meets the damp, dirty prison, where the executioner's face is always well hidden, where hunger is ugly, where souls are forgotten, where black is the color, where none is the number. I'm going to tell it, and think it, and speak it, and breathe it. Reflect it from the mountains, so all souls can see it. Then I'll stand on the ocean till I start sinking. But I'll know my song well before I start singing. I never expected to know this song quite as well as I do now. And maybe it's just for me, but it might resonate with you too as we read together. Every person that you don't fully understand is as complex and vivid as my dear sister. The circumstances of her death do not define her life. When you look out there at hurting people that you pass by every day, understand that you don't fully understand. You can't save everyone. You can't save anyone, really. That's not our job. But you can help give someone one more day, and maybe one after that. You can give hope. Vanessa was a glorious, broken person, like the rest of us. But we can start to piece her together in our hearts if we talk to one another. During the reception, I encourage you to seek out someone you don't know very well and talk to them about Vanessa. I guarantee you'll discover something new about her. You had no idea. So, in Jewish tradition, the dead are honored with the phrase Zichrona Livracha, or may her memory be a blessing. So, let's bless one another today with her memory. Thank
you. Thank you to you both. That was very helpful and very eloquent. I'm going to ask Errol and Christine to come up now. Errol and Christine Bordesein are Vanessa's cousins, and they're going to sing one of her favorite songs called Lean on Me. And it's one of those songs where the me can refer to a friend, can also refer to the Lord. Thank you.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. If we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on. Oh, it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow. No one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on. Oh, it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. So just call on me, brother. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. Oh, it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. So just call on me, brother. And we all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem to understand. We all need somebody to lean on. There is a load you have to bear that you can carry well. I'm right up the road, and I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. Oh, it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. And I'll help you carry on. For
It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
It's great. Thank you very much. So this is the time when a few of Vanessa's friends will come up and share. So I'd like to call on Heather Millette, Emma Donnelly, Mark Bigger, and Amy Batula to come up now. We can all come together, and we'll you'll be first, Emma. You'll be first, Heather.
I actually have two sets of remarks to share. One is from my brother Joel Danielson. So he sent this. So I'll read his first, and then I'll read what I wrote. It's been a dizzying experience trying to remember Vanessa since I heard her passing. It has made me sort of think of retracing my steps, as if by mentally traveling back in time, I might remember all the best things, the fondest memories, most clearly. In his science fiction novel Out of the Silent Planet, C.S. Lewis wrote, "A pleasure is full grown only when it is remembered. You're speaking as if pleasure were one thing and the memory another. It is all one thing." Of all the memories I have cherished from the years spent growing up with Vanessa, there's one set that not only stands out above the others, but in some sense matures to become more familiar over time. As I'm sure many of us can relate, the way I remember Vanessa best comes to mind less in singular events or interactions and more as a collection of treasured moments. My favorite place to spend time with Vanessa was in her family's living room, sitting on the couch in the front of the stereo, listening to music that formed the soundtrack of our coming of age. As fundamentally creative individuals, many of us, including Vanessa, frequently gathered around the bonfire of good music. While some of us grew up playing instruments and studying music, Vanessa was naturally gifted with a strong voice, and she contributed her gifts as part of the church worship team. She would discover new songs and artists either from someone's CD collection, the radio, or from Much Music. And inevitably, Vanessa would later be singing and harmonizing along with the music in the car or on her stereo at home. She was also a regular contributor to our many music appreciation sessions, where we would gather often in the very same living room at the Kifts and share favorite songs from our personal collections. Of course, singing was only one of Vanessa's many talents. Fashion and design were her natural habitat, and she came alive and seemingly found herself in many other artistic modes and expressions. She always wanted to share with others the beauty and excitement she found in giving expression to the threads of the divine woven through her soul. C.S. Lewis, again, in The Weight of Glory, wrote, "The books or the music in which we thought the beauty was located will betray us if we trust to them. It was not in them. It only came through them, and what came through them was longing." These things, the beauty, the memory of our own past, are good images of what we really desire, but if they are mistaken for the thing itself, they turn into dumb idols, breaking the hearts of their worshippers, for they are not the thing itself. They are only the scent of a flower we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we have never yet visited. Vanessa's life and creative endeavors were always, in some sense, a great deal more than self-expression. They were a collection of testimonies to her deep longing for beauty in its purest form, which is the indescribable love of the Father. Each of us has access to the love of the Father through the price Jesus paid on the cross, and it's thanks to Him and Him only that Vanessa's life has been completely redeemed. For Jesus faced temptation to the utter precipice far beyond any capacity we ever had to resist it, and He suffered infinitely more than any of us could ever hope to withstand. Jesus now stands with the Father and with the Spirit outside of time as we experience it. He was present with Vanessa in the womb. He was present with her at the end. And His presence extends beyond the limits of measurable space and time, completely enveloping Vanessa where she now sits, free of the entanglements of the flesh, safe, kept, held, fully and deeply loved, wrapped totally in Him who is love. So that was Joel. Now this is me. Vanessa was one of the originals. She and the Kifts, I and many of you, I would consider a part of my family. Vanessa was older than me slightly, more aligned in age with other older members of our friend group, but she and I bonded over many shared experiences. We went to school together. We were in the same family group of VCF church plant families, same growing up friend group, church youth group. We spent many formative years together. We sang together. We went on camping trips, road trips. We went to concerts together, and we went to Africa together. And we shared odd jokes, tirelessly repeated, based on particular moments together. Jokes that would seem like pure nonsense to others. And I know many of us could come up here and say that they had that same unique bond with Vanessa. I can actually quote some of your other jokes. They're weird because I've heard them countless times, but I'd have to say I don't know where they came from. Those stories were so personal and yet so unique to each of her friendships, and I know for me it sort of anchored our friendship so that whenever we saw each other after long absence, those odd phrases and jokes were said to each other, and it brought everything back and re-solidified our care for each other, no matter how long it had been, or how divergent our lives became, and even when the Vanessa I knew became more faded or less able to be fully there, the genuine love and connection of a family member was there. She called me He, and I called her Na. I'm proud to be among all of you who truly knew Vanessa as well as we could. As she was, so brightly alive, so funny, so beautiful and talented under the pain that at times shrouded her. I'm so proud to know that I'll see her again in her beauty and completely free in the fullness of her true self, how God created her.
Okay, well, I'll share a few of those funny jokes that might not make any sense to you, but to me and Vanessa it was really funny. Vanessa and I go way back to when I was a baby. Apparently, I used to run around the kid's house looking for Vanessa, and of course, I don't actually remember this, but Vanessa sure did. She brought it up every once in a while about how I'd run around saying, Vanessa, where are you? And she would hide from me because she hated it. She hated being called that, and you can understand why.
I didn't at the time. I had no idea. I thought it was okay. I thought that was her name. I also remember making Vanessa watch Care Bear movies with me, which she also brought up from time to time. We played for hours with her Barbie collection. We grew up behaving as though we were family, and I spent many days and nights at the Kift's house. I remember Jonathan, James, Vanessa, and I would get into heated debates about whose mom made the best spaghetti. The funny thing is, which I learned later, is that my mom actually uses Sylvia's recipe, so they kind of make the same spaghetti, I guess, so they're both really good. Vanessa had the best sense of humor, and we always found hilarious moments in everyday life. The first time I remember this happening when we were selling buckets of cherries out front of the Kift's house on Reimer Road. I was probably about 8 and Vanessa was about 10. We sat there all day in the heat, hoping that someone would stop to buy some cherries. At one point, a car drove by with their windshield wipers on. We thought it was hilarious that someone could mistake the sunny weather for rain. We thought, how could they think it's raining? And we went and we told everyone. We laughed for weeks after about that. But I didn't really get why the adults weren't as amused as us until years later I figured out there's a button you push that cleans your windshield, and we had no idea at that time. We just thought this person must have been out of their mind to have their windshield wipers on. In 1996, a group of us from BCF went on an outreach to Kenya. Michael and Vanessa and I went to England about a week earlier, and we had a lot of fun. While we were waiting at the airport in Vancouver, an airport worker walked by us in construction overalls, holding tongs in his hand, like the kind you would use to pick up hot dogs or something. And we went. And then a few seconds later, over the intercom, they called for Mr. Wiener Tong, Mr. Wiener Tong, please report to the gate, Mr. Wiener Tong. And we went, did they just call for Mr. Wiener Tong? Like, what is going on? So we laughed at that one for years. Like, that was years joke, Mr. Wiener Tong. Another time, a few days after that, we went to a Cornish pasty shop where they announced hot pasties just coming out of the oven. Vanessa boldly went ahead and ordered a pasty. And because, or so we thought, she pronounced it pasty instead of pasty, they gave her a cold one. Then Michael and I were sure to order pasties, and we got ones that were so hot we were trying not to burn our mouths on them. We kind of rubbed it in as we all ate them, and Vanessa complained about how cold hers was, and we complained about ours burning our mouths. We all laugh, and she'd go, shut up, guys, and then we just laugh and laugh and laugh. Vanessa's sense of style started early. Perhaps it was the hours she spent dressing up for Barbies and coming up with many variations of outfits. When Vanessa was at the King's School of Vernon, she began to show her flair passion by wearing a distinct and unique red bow around her neck, while the rest of us had the standard uniform necktie. As we both grew up, Vanessa got more into fashion, and she'd often compliment me on my outfit or makeup, which was really a huge deal to me. And I think, well, if Vanessa likes it, it must be good. She was also always full of genuine compliments and support for me, and I so value the input and insight she gave me. She would give me big hugs all the time and call me Emlina. I have so many ways to remember Vanessa, and her laugh is forever in my head and on my heart. And every time I go to the airport, I always remember our trip to England and Mr. Wiener Tong.
Hi. I just have a short message from my brother. As for myself, Vanessa was one of the and so I remember her being kind of a bridge between the two groups sometimes, so teasing us younger kids, and also depending on my brother writes, I always appreciated how Vanessa would always have an encouraging word. She would, without hesitation, have something nice to say about you if you were trying something new or trying something a little out of the ordinary. Growing up together, I admired her fashion sense and knowledge of clothing trends. When I was in my teens, I myself would make some questionable choices, like wearing a kilt when we took Vanessa to prom. But she would always find something positive to say and never criticize. I'll always remember the great times we had together.
Tried writing this clearly, and I even edited it at the time. But every time it came up here, jumped up, so I apologize for looking out the time on it. It takes a thought. But summing up 30 years of friendship as of September this past in a few minutes. We'll be back. I was worried about sharing because I don't want to do justice. But then I thought, I'm not talking about Vanessa in general. I'm sharing with you about who she was to me. That's that for me in a few minutes. My mind wandered. Music, flooded my thoughts. Bands like Cranberries, Weezer, Tracy Chapman, Bob Dylan. She could imitate these things perfectly. I remembered our walks to the mall. We would sing the whole way through. That day I was being on me. I was supposed to do the melody while she harmonized, but I would always follow her when she started harmony because I couldn't sing. It drove her nuts. And I also started remembering endless hours of TV and movies like Bill and Madison, Saturday Night Live episodes, What About Bob, Strange Bruce, so many times that I would be sure that was for Arcady. One time, Arcady and Still sent her the VCR for sleepover at the club and we watched how we did that. Her and her family were always giving it. Endless open tabs for us from her parents at family camp. The Maple Lake store, and that Butcher Boys when we used to do that. I first met her when I moved up to Falkland from Nanaimo. My parents found the smallest possible Christian school and enrolled my sister Erica and I into a King's school. 18 students, grades 2 to 8. Vanessa was the only other grade 8 girl. 2 people could have been more implicit. Kenny became my best friend. We became friends to start by chance and stayed friends for life. We did a trip to England for James and Anna's wedding and stayed that day with them. Thank you, Sean, by the way, for watching the kids. She was so many things to all of us. Her daughter, sister, niece, cousin, friend. To me, she was my best friend. And an incredible teacher. She taught me how to dress, because oh my gosh, I was bad. She taught me how to do makeup, I didn't even know what that was. And she taught me how to become a hairdresser, how to cut curly hair for her and her whole family. She attempted to teach me how to sing, but that did not work out so well. She also taught me how a true Christian loves. The whole family did. It's no secret my family, when we started going here, we were more than rougher on the edges. She loved me unconditionally with no judgment. She taught me to love everyone this way, open my arms, open my heart. She loved everyone so loyally, so fiercely, so gratefully. She would always be wanting to be my prayer warrior and pray for me constantly. Even when she thought her own faith was wavering, she would open up with, I don't know if I'm a Christian, but I'm going to pray for you in whatever situation I'm going through. I think that's a given. Another person in place. She was the Auntie Syl of 9 children. She doted on them whenever she was over and shared her immense love with them. When I started dating my now husband Gary, I think she adored him more than I did. She was always wanting to love him. Our son Gray and Mel got to meet her. She was like 2 years ago. She couldn't take her eyes off of him. She always had her in her heart. A huge heart for him. When I was 18, Kayla and I moved into the Kift into an airlock old bedroom. I think that was probably the craziest thing since I did. But shortly before that, we were blessed enough to go on that BCF mission trip to England. On that trip, our church adopted a really awesome saying. 2 years ago, she gave me a very heavy letter for safekeeping. She was telling of her appreciation towards her parents, Brian and Donna, Colleen, Janet and Peter, Dwayne and Marva, and new friend she named, the sweet doll-faced crystal she called. At the very end of this letter, she says, I love all of you, and ends with a saying from the trip. God is good all the time.
Thank you. Lois, Karen, and Connie, if you would come up now. Lois Thiessen, Karen, Kathy, and Connie Bowen are several sisters. They're both sing for us. And then at the end of that song is when we'll see the video presentation of Vanessa's lecture. So.
Is greater far than tongues or pen can ever tell. It goes beyond the highest star and reaches to the lowest hell. The guilty pair bow down with care. God gave His Son to win His erring child. He reconciled and pardoned from His sin. O love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure. The saints and angels song. Could we within an ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every star on earth a quail, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above would drain the oceans dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky. O love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure. The saints and angels song. O love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forever voice and angels song. You're so far away, and I won't see you any day soon. We came a long way, now you won't fly to the moon. All alone, go your way. I thought I owned your love, and now you say, make beautiful for me. Come on, make beauty, baby. Our love was here to stay. 2 years from now, it's down today. And it's one long day to leave from a humble way. Love was a song we sang in so beautifully. And can it be gone permanently? And you say, make beautiful for me. Come along, baby. Make beauty, baby. Yeah, make beautiful. But all this heart can do is break. So take the peace. You say we are to the other. You want just live today. But true love don't come along every day. You say, make beautiful for me. Come on, baby. Make beauty, baby. Yeah, make beautiful for me. Come on, baby. Make beautiful. Yeah. Sweet the sound, the saints are much like me.
thanks to Heather who prepared that video presentation with help from a few friends, including her mom and Amy. The ties formed in friendship when Vanessa and Jonathan were growing up were amazingly strong, as we've already seen, which explains why James Hill has come all the way from England to be with the Kift family and to share a brief message today. James grew up in Birmingham, but currently serves as priest in charge at a Church of England parish called St. Jude and St. Paul's Church in North London. So James, we welcome you here today.
Hi, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's very good to be together. Very strange under these circumstances, though. I hope we'll get through this, as John said. These are sad days. I think I've cried probably more in the last few weeks than I have in the last years. But I'm comforted today in knowing that we're here together, that we're doing this with each other. It'd be so much harder on our own. And we're doing it with family, we're doing it with the extended family, and we're doing it as the church. It's amazing to remember Vanessa in the context of God's presence here. The more people I see that knew Vanessa, the more stories that I've heard just now, the more pictures that I see, the more I realize just how many people loved Vanessa. And yet we know that the difficulties in life that Vanessa faced meant that knowing that truth for herself actually was very difficult. She found it very hard to hear the truth of that sometimes. And so that's what makes days like today bittersweet too. As I was thinking of memories that I could share with Vanessa, I found it almost impossible to do, because like many people here, I grew up with Vanessa. So just trying to pick one. After many days, years growing up together, it's impossible. So where do I start? Well, there are some things that were always there in the background. That sense of humor, that offbeat sense of humor, that laugh, that offbeat sense of humor that rubbed off on many of us. Her always stylish looks, her Caesar salad, the countless times that we watched Three Amigos together. I could go on and on and on for years. But I also remember the times that we got into trouble as well. I remember at King's School when we rolled the giant tire into Mr. Leach's garden, went over the fence. That day, Vanessa taught me a few new words. Won't say them here, maybe afterwards. But I also remember the endless creativity that she had. Art, fabric, paint, t-shirts. I remember Vanessa coming over to England and being with Anne and I when we got married, helping out in numerous ways. And although we weren't always close geographically, Ness and I knew I could always pick up where we left out when we'd see each other again. I just never thought I'd be in this situation where I wouldn't get that chance to see her one more time this side of the door. But there's one memory, perhaps, that sticks out of all of them. That was one of the days, it happened a few times, but one I remember when Vanessa got burrs in her hair. As we all know, Vanessa has mobius, curly hair, and one day, someone thought it would be fun to throw burrs at Vanessa. Everyone know what burrs are? Thistles that stick in. Now, whether that person that threw the burrs was actually, in this room, standing up here, is less important. But what I do remember was that lovingly and painstakingly, Sylvia was there, pulling them out one by one with scissors, cutting, lovingly, carefully taking each one out one by one. Sadly, this wasn't the only time that birds got into Vanessa. And in many ways, some of these verbs stuck into her. And they were a constant reminder that life wasn't easy for her. And if we're honest, and John's already said this, it's important to say it again. If we're honest with ourselves, Vanessa isn't the only person who gets birds and had birds in her life. The birds of life get to all of us, actually, if we're honest. Sometimes it's our own doing. We wander into those places where we know there's going to be thistles. Other times, they get thrown at us by others. And sometimes it's no one's fault. There's no reason. They're just there. And when this happens, whatever the circumstances are of it, we need a Sylvia to work them out slowly, carefully, even if it means painfully. For some, a friend in a safe place might be their Sylvia. For others, a mental health professional might be their Sylvia. For Vanessa, she had her own personal Sylvia, who also happens to be the actual Sylvia. But in a way, I think that all of us in this room, looking around, and those listening online, have been a Sylvia to Vanessa at least once or twice. And in the case of Sylvia, Dave, and John, it wasn't once or twice. It was indeed a plethora. About 2,000 years ago, St. Paul also spoke about birds. And he himself had at least one of these, but not in his hair, but in his flesh. What he calls a thorn inside. Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 12, he says, in order to keep me from becoming conceited or boasting, in order for me to stop being exalted, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. Now, hearing this is odd, isn't it? Why on earth would God allow someone like Paul, the Apostle Paul, the super apostle, why would God allow this thorn in the flesh to torment him, to irritate him? Now, naturally, Paul doesn't want this thorn in his flesh, so he prays, and he prays, and he prays. It says in verse 8, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. Now, there's no consensus among the theologians about what this was for Paul. Was this something that happened to him because of something he did in his past? Maybe it was a memory that haunted him, given Paul's past. Maybe it was something that he received, some of the abuse that he received because he had this inclusive message that he was carrying himself. Or was it a disability of some kind that he had in his mind or in his body? We don't know. But what we do know is that here was one of the most important, the most influential leaders of the Christian church. And yet he too had births. It was so severe that he pleaded with God to take it away 3 times. He asked God to take it away. He said, why not take it away? This was lament for Paul. This is a form of prayer where we speak to God plainly and honestly. We tell God what's happening. We complain. This is a form of prayer that Vanessa knew about. And I know it's highlighted in your Bible as well. That's on display. You can see it afterwards. And as we're reading this, and as we're reading this passage, what we're expecting as the reader to find out is that after the 3rd time, God takes it away. 3rd time lucky, right? The 3rd day is the resurrection day. We expect God to take it away after the 3rd time. But we read in verse 9 that God doesn't take it away. Instead, God says to Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you. It's enough. My power is made perfect in weakness." Paul goes on to say that when I'm weak, I'm strong. Eat your heart out for Abraham. These words of Paul take us beyond a faith that only accepts the good in life. And instead, it takes us into a depth of grace in which we can find God at the very heart of difficulty. It doesn't explain why difficulties happen, but it provides a way for this community of faith to cope, to respond to faith. This is how we cope as Christians, by reminding each other of this truth, that when we are weak, we respond. And this is why we need each other, to be able to work things out. By talking to someone we trust and being vulnerable with them. St. Paul, who is our brother in Christ, can speak of his weakness and vulnerability, and maybe we can do as well. And this is a paradox of being a Christian. In our recognition that we need God, in our weakness, when we recognize that we actually need God, we find that in that place, we find God's love, God's power, God's grace is shown. As Christians, we believe that whatever we're going through, there's nothing that can separate us from God's love. Nothing can separate us from the love of God in Jesus. Not angels, or demons, not things in heaven, not things in earth, not the past, not the present, not the future, not life, not even death itself can separate us from the love of God in Jesus. Paul can speak of suffering, and he can speak of pain, because the Jesus that he believed in, and the one that he followed, suffered and was speaking of. It's this Jesus, not a different one, comes alongside us. It's this Jesus that came alongside us. It's this Jesus that said to Vanessa, "Yes, there's nothing that can separate you from my love. Nothing in your body, nothing in your mind, nothing in your soul can separate you from my love." Jesus says the same thing, I believe, to us today. There is nothing in your body, nothing in your mind, nothing in your soul can separate you from the love of God. We simply don't know, because of the circumstances of Vanessa's death. We just simply don't know some things. We don't know how many difficulties Vanessa was able to work out with God, with the help of others, with her own inner resources. We don't know. I don't know how far she got in working out all those birds. But I do know, as she stands with Jesus, they're all out there. They're all out there. I can only end this in the Anglican way that I know how. So unto him that is able to keep us from falling, and to present us faultless before the presence of his glory, with exceeding joy, to the only wise God, our Saviour, be glory and majesty, dominion and power, now and
encouraging message. Means a lot to the Kift family, but also to all of us here today. I'll ask Dave Kift to come forward now for those of prayer.
Little story in prayer. This is the story. And if it does make sense in some ways, looking while sleeping. It's amazing. I'm so excited. I'm supposed to just weep, and I have been weeping, trust me. I went to bed, and do you think I could sleep? I was overcome, literally overcome. Absolute gratitude and tears of joy. Not for 10 minutes, but like for hour after hour after hour after hour after hour after hour. Go all night to sleep. I'm grateful. And this is the saying I want to say. Oh, death, where is your sting? Lord, I thank you. You're in the business, Lord, of breaking our hearts. You're in the business, Lord, of causing us to fall in love with you. You're in the business of absolutely changing our lives. And in Vanessa's case, saving her life. So, Lord, you are the Lord. And we humbly bow our hearts. With all my heart, Lord, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know where my daughter is, and she's doing very well. Amen.
So you may have heard the reference when James was speaking to online. The service was recorded and is being streamed online, and it can be accessed. If you would like to have the web address, it's a bit of a long one, so talk to Jamie back there, and she will give that to you. So on behalf of the Kift family, I also want to thank all of those who were involved in this memorial service. You'll see some of their names in the bulletin. And invite everyone to stay for some light refreshments, a chance to catch up with people you haven't seen for a while, or to meet new friends, and also time to look at the display of Vanessa's artwork, which is the back. And if you haven't signed the guest book yet, please do so after the service. And the background music that you'll hear during the reception time includes some of Vanessa's favorite songs. So that's going to be happening right here in this auditorium, which means we'll need to move some chairs around to set up tables. And I'm going to ask Mark McNerney if you would just come and give us some directions on that.
I just have to say it's so great to see so many friends and familiar faces here over the years, and it was an absolute pleasure to be able to serve the Kift family during this time. So we are going to move some stack some chairs and bring some tables out and show some refreshments. Many of you know I was a manager at Burn Lodge for over 26 years, and I look around the crowd here and it's amazing. I actually counted probably around 10, at least 10 people that actually I was able to work with and had the pleasure of having on my team. So I'm just kind of calling those people forward. Help me one more time. So they know what we're doing. We're just going to stack the chairs in 8s, and we're going to break out 9 rounds. And God bless you, and thank you for your help.
Thank you, Mark. So we're dismissed for now.